killed by its own product. Back in 1977, Richard Thalheimer was a young lawyer in San Francisco who had a side hustle. He was selling a running gadget through a tiny mail-order ad in a running magazine. He wasn't a retail visionary with a grand plan. He just liked stuff, cool stuff, gadgets that solved problems nobody knew they had. That little ad turned a small profit, and instead of going back to practicing law full-time, Thalheimer kept placing more ads for more products. The catalog grew. The name he picked for it, the Sharper Image, was basically a mission statement. This wasn't going to be a place that sold you the ordinary version of anything. It was going to sell you the sharper, shinier, cooler version at a markup you'd happily pay because it felt like the future. Thalheimer was a showman before he was ever really a CEO in the traditional sense. He filled his stores with massage chairs, talking robots, tiny remote control helicopters, air purifiers shaped like sculptures. The kind of stuff you'd play with in the mall for 20 minutes and then somehow walk out having bought. That was by design. Sharper Image stores weren't laid out like normal retail. They were built as interactive showrooms, encouraging customers to sit in the massage chair, hold the gadget, try the thing before they even thought about the price tag. Thalheimer was famously hands-on with product selection. By his own account in interviews over the years, he was personally obsessed with hunting down the next weird little device that would make people stop and stare. He wasn't running focus groups and market research decks. He was, by most accounts, the company's chief taste tester, out scouting trade shows and inventors' pitches himself. For a long time, that instinct made him look like a retail genius. The stores felt less like shopping and more like visiting a very expensive toy store for adults. And Thalheimer was the guy who never stopped shopping for new toys to put in it. Through the 80s and 90s, Sharper Image rode the wave perfectly. Malls were booming, catalogs were king, and there was a real appetite for high-end gimmicky electronics before Amazon made comparison shopping instant and brutal. Back then, if you wanted to know whether a gadget was any good, you couldn't just pull up hundreds of reviews on your phone. You trusted the shiny display, the demo, the salesperson's pitch. Sharper Image thrived in exactly that information gap. The company expanded to well over 150 stores at its peak, plus a mail-order catalog business that was still a serious moneymaker even as the stores multiplied. And then came the product that would define the entire brand for better and eventually for much, much worse: the Ionic Breeze air purifier. No fans, no filters, no moving parts. Just quiet charge plates that supposedly cleaned your air like magic, silently while you slept. It became a genuine sensation. At its peak, this one product alone was responsible for a massive chunk of the company's total revenue. Some reporting at the time put it at well over $100 million a year from that single item. Here's the problem: the magic wasn't real, or at least not in the way customers thought. Starting in 2002 and again in the years after, Consumer Reports tested the Ionic Breeze and published findings that it was largely ineffective at actually cleaning air compared to standard filter-based purifiers, and worse, that some models produced ozone, a lung irritant, at levels that raised health concerns. This wasn't a rumor or a blog post. It was published in a major, trusted consumer publication, repeated across news coverage, and it stuck in the public imagination. Sharper Image pushed back hard. The company actually filed a defamation lawsuit against Consumer Reports over the coverage, arguing the tests were misleading. That lawsuit was ultimately dismissed by the courts. But legal vindication for Consumer Reports meant the opposite for Sharper Image. The damage to the product's reputation and to the retailer's single biggest cash cow was already done. And now it had a court record attached to it too. Ionic Breeze sales collapsed in the years that followed. And because that one product had been carrying such an outsized share of company revenue, there was no quick substitute to plug the hole. You don't just invent a new $100 million gadget on demand. Thalheimer, the man who'd built the entire brand around his personal instinct for cool stuff, was pushed out as CEO in 2006 amid mounting pressure from the board over falling performance and the company's direction. New leadership came in with the usual turnaround playbook: modernize the store layouts, diversify away from novelty electronics into home goods and gifts, chase a younger customer who wasn't going to be impressed by a robot dog. They brought in new merchandise lines, tried remodeling flagship locations, even experimented with more affordable price points to widen the customer base. None of it moved fast enough. Online retail was eating into the exact model that had made Sharper Image special in the first place. Why pay mall markup for a gadget demoed by a bored sales associate when you could find 10 cheaper versions online with actual verified customer reviews attached? The company tried nearly everything short of admitting the core problem. Cost-cutting, store closures, repeated management shakeups as one turnaround executive after another rotated through the top job. Attempts to reposition the brand around lifestyle and wellness products instead of pure gadgetry. But a retailer that had spent 30 years selling the promise of the future was now just another struggling mall chain, competing against everyone from Best Buy's electronics aisles to the entire internet, and it was losing on price, selection, and trust all at once. In February 2008, Sharper Image filed for Chapter 11, a court process meant to give a company breathing room to restructure its debts, not an automatic death sentence. The hope, at least on paper, was to shrink the footprint, close the weakest stores, and come out the other side leaner and still standing. The reorganization didn't work. Just a few months later, in mid-2008, Sharper Image converted from Chapter 11 into Chapter 7 liquidation. The version of bankruptcy where there's no coming back. The company stops operating and everything gets sold off to pay creditors. The stores that had once been playgrounds for shoppers who wanted to feel like they were living in a spaceship for 20 minutes now had liquidation banners taped over the windows. Every remaining store closed for good. The brand name itself was later sold off and licensed for use on products sold through other retailers, but the actual company, the stores, the catalog, the guy personally testing massage chairs on the sales floor, that was simply gone. Richard Thalheimer tried a comeback, launching a new venture called Sharper Agent and later attempting to reacquire pieces of the old brand without ever recapturing the original magic. The Sharper Image name still exists today, licensed out on products sold through other retail chains. But that's branding on a box, not the company that once built an empire on novelty and showmanship. The real lesson here isn't just don't put all your revenue in one gadget, though that's absolutely true. It's that when your entire business model runs on the promise that a product actually works, and that promise gets publicly and credibly challenged by a source people trust, you don't just lose a product line, you lose the thing that made customers believe you in the first place. So, what do you think? Was Sharper Image just a victim of the internet killing off novelty retail? Or did betting everything on one ionized gadget seal its own fate? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, and we post a new bankruptcy story every day. Which company's collapse do you want to see next? Write it in the comments.